Katrina, thank you so much for coming back to Dynamic Business Women, talking to us again. I almost feel like you're part of the family now.
I know, it's great. I'm loving the lounge room as well and your French doors. So
Yes, welcome to my home, everybody.
yeah, welcome to my home.
Yeah. The dog will be wandering around. I think I don't know if you can see her.
Oh.
She's asleep somewhere in the background. So you might
Gorgeous.
see her wander past as well. I had to lock the cat away because she likes to get in front of the camera.
Oh, no.
So, Katrina, can you start off by just telling everybody about who you are and what you do?
So I am the CEO of CP Communications, which is a PR and social media agency. And I'm the author of From Unknown to Expert, which is a whole program around helping solo small business entrepreneurs move from unknown to recognized experts so that they can build their business and have the life that they dream of.
Yeah, and it's I've actually read the book. It's a fantastic book. So for anybody that hasn't read it, it's exceptionally good for people who are perhaps just starting out in marketing with social media, small businesses. So highly, highly recommend it. It's in my bookshelf. I can't believe I didn't get it so I could hold it up.
How about I'll hold it up?
Oh, there we go. Thank you. So, Katrina, tell me how you got started in business and how long you've been in business for, and just share a part of your journey with us.
Yeah, I am a corporate refugee, really. I've been in business for 14 years now, which is a long time to be running a business.
Yeah.
And I really was in a position where I kind of reached an area in my career where I kind of felt that I was either going to stay in corporate and fight the battles of the glass ceiling and fight the politics. And I think I came to a realization that I just didn't suit corporate life. I didn't suit the politics. I wasn't good at towing the line, and I wasn't good at kind of fitting in with the politics of things. And rather than trying to actually make myself do something that I wasn't particularly strong at, I thought, well, I'm going to go and start a business. And it was a massive decision, but it was one of those decisions that I'd been thinking about for a few years. And it was almost like I woke up one morning and went, I'm doing it. I'm just going to go in and do it. So I resigned, and I had no clients, no money, no computer. I mean, back then we had dial-up the internet.
I remember that.
Do you know what I mean? And like in hindsight now, I think, what was I thinking? And I think that and also too, if I was going to give somebody advice, I don't know whether I would do that again. It forced me to make the business work, which is a good thing, but also that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of stress. So I think in hindsight, I probably would have bought a computer or saved some money or figured out how to, run a business before I actually did it.
Yeah.
But obviously I've been doing it for 14 years, so it's something that I absolutely love. It's hard work. I'm not saying that there are not moments during that time that I think, oh, what am I doing? I might just go get a job and then that'll be easier. But it's very rare that it actually happens, and it certainly doesn't happen now. So I really wanted to create a business that really followed my values and my ethics. And it was around making developing campaigns and developing strategies that actually really make a difference to an organization. So it's not just sending out, and we don't do this. We do a really distinct style of PR, which is something that I've developed over my career. And it's not sending out media releases very often. There's some clients that we've never sent a media release out for at all, which is the most common strategy for PR. With most of our clients, it's really, and this is how I teach people in my book, it's really uncovering the stories within an organization and then finding the journalists that are going to be interested in those stories and then pitch them in.
Yeah.
So it's a very tailored approach and strategic approach to it. So, and then at the beginning of last year, I thought, I'm going to write a book.
As
Very
you do.
similar. It was kind of in the back of my mind as well, but it was kind of a very, very similar experience to when I started the business, because I had in the back of my mind that I'd wanted to write a book for a while. But it was kind of like, on the 5th of January, I had moved into my new apartment, which I'd spent 6 months renovating, and surrounded by boxes. And I'd actually had a couple of clients lose their budget at the beginning of the year. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to have a different year this year. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to write a book. And from that moment, that was when I started writing a book. And then I was offered a speaking opportunity in Austin with Michael Dell, the Dell Women Entrepreneurs Conference. And I went, I'm launching the book in the US. So I wrote the book, published the book, launched the book in the US all within 6 months. So
wow.
A crazy year last year. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how have you found since launching the book? How has it changed business?
Yeah, it's amazing, because I wanted to do it for two reasons. One, because I think as entrepreneurs, we need to always be looking at our business to see how we can make it better, whether there's other avenues, revenue streams, whether there's other audiences. And I, for a long time, felt that like my audience for my consulting is very much sort of medium-sized businesses. So we'll have, we'll have kind of around 15 clients, 15 to 20 clients. And that's all. That's sort of at capacity for us, where I really wanted to start talking to entrepreneurs. I really wanted to start giving them access to all of my knowledge, which I couldn't do just through my blog and just through the work that I was doing.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write a book and do. There's a number of products that relate to the book as well. So it's a whole online package, the Unknown to Expert. So I think from a revenue perspective, I really wanted to reach other people. So it was a way of strategizing with my business. But also, too, I was at a point in my career where I really wanted to share my experience with as many people as I possibly could. So I was doing a lot of speaking, and so I was getting up and sort of teaching this stuff to hundreds and if not thousands of people over the years.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put it in a format where I could actually share it with as many people.
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give? Because there's a lot of people that are just starting off in business, or they've been in business a couple of years and they want to get out there more in the media. They have no idea, where do I start? What do I do? How do I get myself seen by the media? How do I pick up, interviews and things like that? So what advice would you give to them?
Well, the first thing to really start to think about is a strategy. So you can't just go, I just want to be in the media, so I'm just going to call somebody and hope that something's going to happen. Yeah, it'll happen. The media really does require a lot of thinking and a lot of strategy. So the first thing to think about is, where are your customers consuming media? So what that means is, so say, for example, if your customers are all in fashion, for example, then what you want to do is start pitching stories into fashion magazines. You're not going to start pitching stories into Lawnmower Monthly.
Yeah.
Or, it's interesting because I have a lot of people who come to me and say, I want to be in the AFR. I want to be in the Australian Financial Review. I read the paper every day. It's the best, it'll be really, it's an ego thing as well.
Yeah.
And the first thing I say to them is, really, why? Are your customers reading AFR, or is it that you want to be in the AFR? And often they go, well, I want to be in the AFR. So it's really having a think about who your customers are and where they consume their information. And then that will actually give you an idea about which media that you want to start pitching stories into. And the thing that you need to then do is start reading those magazines and watching those TV shows or listening to those podcasts. What you have to start experiencing like what they're experiencing in terms of when they're consuming media.
Yep.
So that, and just doing that alone will give you a whole bunch of ideas around what stories that media is interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can then figure out what angles and what types of articles that you can pitch into.
Okay. So once you've worked that out, how do you actually reach out? How do
Yeah.
you put together a proposition to the media to say, hey, I think I've got something that you might be interested in?
So the thing to think about with journalists is that some journalists, like some of the news journalists, they get up to about 500 media releases a day, if not more.
Wow.
So the thing to think about is how are you going to get your angle across the line when you're competing against 500 other people?
Yeah.
So it comes back down to making sure that your story is really interesting. And an example, say for example, I was just on CNBC on Tuesday morning.
I saw that. I didn't
Oh, did
actually see the
you?
thing, but I saw it in
Yeah.
social media. I've got it bookmarked to watch.
Yeah, watch it. It was a very interesting interview. They really went off. They didn't go off topic, but they really wanted me to say something, which I was not going to say.
Yeah.
So it was one of those tricky interviews, which I've coached clients through, but I found myself in that situation where they were like saying, they wanted me to say that CEOs shouldn't be on social media. And I was like, no, they should be on social media.
Yeah.
But how that came about, for example, is that we read an article in the AFR that showed some study that CEOs in Australia are behind the ball in using LinkedIn and Twitter, and that and the result of that is going to impact their businesses because they're not appreciating the fact that there's a changing dynamic now and they need to understand it. So what we did is then pitch on the back of that, saying that I have expertise, that I have an interesting perspective that CEOs should be on social media, and here are the 5 reasons why. And we pitched that in, and then they actually wanted me to speak about that because it actually gave a new and a different angle as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing to think about is you can watch the news so that you can actually piggyback on news stories.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with interesting angles that relate to your area of expertise. So you're pitching yourself in as an expert that can actually add value to something, an industry trend or something that's going on in the news. So with that in particular, what you can do is pitch yourself in as an expert. And that's really critical to do that because journalists are just crying out to use people who are experts. They need people to comment on stories. So every single day they're out there looking for people to comment on stories.
Yeah.
So if you can be that person that puts yourself in front of them, then that is going to give you a heads up against other people. So it's really critical that you're really proactive. No one is going to, unless you're the Prime Minister, you're not going to wake up one morning and a journalist goes, I'm going to interview Katrina today. It just doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
It'd be nice.
If you're a celebrity or the Prime Minister or something, I think that might happen.
Yeah.
But it's, sitting in our lounge rooms, it's just not going to happen. So you have to proactively pitch yourself. And say, for example, with me, I do lots of media interviews with smart companies, and they actually do ring me. They do ring me up virtually every week to comment on a story.
Okay.
But the reason is that I pitched myself in several times, and I write stories for their blog as an expert. And so they are on deadline. They need someone to comment. So they know that if they call me, I'm going to provide expert information. I'm going to answer their questions when they need me to.
Yeah.
So if you do that often, you'll be able to get journalists to call you for comment.
Yeah. So how often is too often to, I won't use the word harass, but to pitch yourself to a journalist So how obviously you want to do it more than once to be able to stay in their line of vision, so to speak.
Yeah.
So how often would you contact a journalist
Mm.
to pitch your
Well, it
story?
really, yeah. So the thing is you actually have to be pitching yourself in every week. Like it doesn't necessarily to be the same journalist,
Yeah,
but it has to be part of your strategy.
yeah,
And the thing, as small business and entrepreneurs, it's the last free thing we can do.
yeah,
Social media is no longer free. If you're writing articles and pitching them in, quite often you have to use copywriters. Advertising is expensive. Driving SEO, driving traffic is expensive. So using the media as entrepreneurs and people who are building our businesses, it's just one of the last things we can do where we don't actually have to pay any money to do it.
yeah,
So it doesn't cost any money, and it actually builds our roles as experts. So it's going to bring in cash. It's
yeah,
going to actually help our bottom line. So I think that to answer that question is you have to proactively be doing it every day. It has to be a part of your strategy. It can't always, be one of those things you're going to get to and never get to.
mm,
So with a journalist, what it is that you can pitch as many stories as you want, but they have to be good stories. So you can burn a journalist pretty quickly in the sense that if you send a media release that has no news value, and then 2 days later or a week later you send a media pitch that has no news value, then they're going to start looking at your name and thinking, well, I'm not
delete,
even going to bother.
yeah,
Yeah.
delete,
So that's why I'm saying it's really important to actually think about the strategy and make sure that what you pitch is really good.
yeah,
And just because they don't pick it up the first time does not mean that they're not going to pick it up another time or another story angle another time. Like
yeah,
so often we pitch in stories that they say, because I mean, we do this for clients every day. This is what my agency job is. Um, Majority of our pitches land because we go into a lot of effort to make the angle right. But there are times when a journalist will say, not quite right, not quite what I'm looking for at the moment,
mm,
but stay in touch. And so there's some journalists that we've pitched, up 5 or 6 stories to that finally they pick it up. And then there's a cheer in the office. So that's so the answer really is you can pitch as many times as you want, but they all have to be really good pitches.
yeah, yeah. So what advice would you give to people who say they'll come up to a mindset block and they'll say, I have to do this every day. I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
obviously it's pretty important, and a lot of people don't understand that. Sometimes you have to make the time if you want your business to grow, if you want to get out there, if you want to get coverage, etc. So, do you agree?
yeah, absolutely. Because I do so much speaking on social media and PR and unknown to expert and so on. And the biggest block that people come back to me with is I just don't have time.
Mm,
Like, and I have had people, say the most ridiculous things to me about, well, you've got time because you've got staff, or you've got time, you do it because da da da. And there's just a million excuses under the sun.
yeah,
And it's simply, I know for a fact that this works.
yeah,
Using the media and building your profile and raising your personal brand has absolutely significantly made a difference to my business. Without a doubt, it has. Um, and I do this every single day for clients.
mm,
So every single day, I see that getting media coverage has improved their reputation, increased their credibility, resulted in new clients or new customers for them. Quite often, when they're in the sales process, because we do a lot to work with companies that their customers are businesses.
mm-hmm,
So quite often their sales cycle is a long sales cycle. So they have to go in and pitch a few times. It's not just buying, a bottle of shampoo or something. And so what they find with if their CEO has been in the media, that the sales cycle is actually shorter and they sell more because they don't have to sell as hard because their credibility and the reputation of the CEO is already there because they saw them in the AFR last Tuesday talking about the product or the service that they're buying, and so immediately they have the perception that she or he is an expert.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can't, like, that is priceless. You can't buy that credibility or that reputation. You absolutely have to earn it, and you have to go get it. Excuse me. So I think that when small businesses say they don't have time, I totally get that. Totally understand that. I'm a small business. I'm an entrepreneur. Time is really precious for me, but excuse me, sorry. I made the time to do this. And I actually had a lot of personal challenges in doing all of this work for myself personally because I'm very much a behind the scenes kind of person. And it took a lot of personal growth and personal development for me to be able to step out of the shadows and into the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I can absolutely say that it's worth the time.
Yeah, yeah. And, you're putting your product or your service out there for thousands of potential new clients that would not normally have been able to find you. So
absolutely. And so it's not like sort of like the old marketing model is doing cold calling, getting lists. Email marketing is still really critical, but I mean, you don't have the relationship with people if you go out and do that in mass marketing.
Yeah.
And what media does and social media does is start building relationships with people. And often those relationships feel like they're one-on-one relationships. And so people do business with brands and people that they trust. And if that trust isn't there, then it's so much harder to get that business from that person. And when you're in the media, talking about your area of expertise, you're immediately building that trust.
Yeah.
Because you're recognized as an expert. Journalists wouldn't speak to you if you weren't an expert.
Exactly.
And so that it really does enhance the business.
Exactly. Now I've got a couple of questions that I've written down here that I'd like to go through with you. So excuse me for looking off camera. So is there a secret to a successful media pitch to obtain media coverage, and what type of content do you consider to be newsworthy?
So with a media pitch, what it is so a lot of people will understand what a media release is. It's just it's a tactic that PR people use, or any business can use, anybody can use, and it's it's a template. And if you go onto my blog, publicrelationssydney.com, .com.au, so there's a free template. You can download it. So I won't go into the details of what how to actually do that. But with a media pitch, what it is that it's quite a distinct way of being able to share a story or an angle with a journalist. And so what that is that you're coming up with an interesting angle. And what I mean by an angle is it's a hook. So for the example on Tuesday with the CEOs not using social media, so the hook was the fact that they're missing out on potential that would pitch me in is that I can talk about how CEOs can use social media effectively and how companies can protect themselves when CEOs tweet and how to actually build. So that were the angles. So what I could do was actually add another layer to the debate around whether CEOs should use social media. And so what you do in a pitch is that you introduce yourself as an expert. You say in the first paragraph why you're an expert, that you've written a book or that you've been in the industry for a long time. And that you can actually share some interesting insight. And then the second paragraph is that insight. Katrina or I will talk about X, Y, Z. And so within like a split second, that journalist will scan the pitch and immediately know that you're an expert and that you can talk about this and that you can add some value.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're introducing yourself, you're telling the story, and then you're saying how you can add value to the journalist. And then you email that directly to the journalist. So you don't put it as an attachment. You don't do a PDF of it. You actually put it in the body of an email and you find the journalist. So it's not editor at X publication. It's Jane at X publication. So it goes directly to them.
Yeah.
And then what you do is they'll get, if they're interested, they'll come back. If you don't hear from them, then sometimes it's worth giving them a call and pitching, saying that you sent the email and pitching it to them over the phone. So you don't send an email, you don't ring up and go, I sent you an email 2 days ago. Are you interested? Because they've received 3,000 emails since then. So you have to use that opportunity to pitch over the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is probably one of the most effective ways of getting interviews, because you're pitching yourself as an expert to be interviewed, that you can do.
Yeah. So what tips do you have? So you've done all the preparation, you're ready to contact, you're ready to reach out to journalists. What tips do you have to actually find out how to contact them directly?
So hopefully, as I said before, hopefully you're reading the publications and the online news sites that the journalists are writing in.
Yeah.
And so that's a really great way of building a list is going, I have stood in news agencies for hours and hours. Probably if you added up in my life days, and just flicking through magazines and just writing down. Luckily now, most of those magazines now have news sites, so I don't have to stand, like the crazy person in a news agency now.
Taking photos.
Yeah, and when I first started, there was no such thing as a smartphone. When I first started, I had to fax out media releases. Oh my God.
Gosh.
Long time. So hopefully, that's how you start building a list.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to have hundreds of people on a list.
Yeah.
You can actually just have 2 people on a list.
Yes.
And that's the thing that people need to really understand, is that with media releases, sure, the tactic of a media release is to blast out, which is why we don't use them very often.
Yeah.
Because you send it out to say, as many journalists as you can possibly find, and just hope that one of them picks it up.
Yeah.
And so what I suggest is you actually do the opposite. You find those key journalists within your field, and you look on the news sites, you look in the magazines, in the front inside cover. You Google search, you go onto LinkedIn, you'll be able to find their email addresses. The only journalists that are pretty hard to find are freelancers, but most often they're on LinkedIn, or you can Google them. And if you can't do it that way, then ring the switch. So at Fairfax and News Limited, you can ring this general switch number and ask for the email address.
So good advice there. Good advice.
And and the other thing too is quite often you can find out what the sequence of the email is by looking at other journalists at that same publication. So do you know what I mean? If it's like Katrina.Pollard at Fairfax, then you'll know that it might be Jane.Smith at Fairfax.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can be a little bit tricky as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like the tip about LinkedIn, because that was one of my strategies before I even launched Dynamic Businesswomen, which we only launched November last year. And but prior to that, I was a social media consultant, so I was a bit switched on as to how to build the profile. But I went into LinkedIn and I just connected with a lot of media personalities, reporters, etc. And straight away, I had access to a telephone number or an email address or something like that. So I've got that database there ready.
Yeah, LinkedIn is, I go to LinkedIn before I go to Google now if I'm trying to find somebody.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're going to have their contact details, they're going to have some of their background, They're going to have like some of the stories that they've written. I spoke at the Walkley Awards for Storyology last year to teaching freelancers and journalists how to use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And there were so many of them that they were saying that they really find LinkedIn really useful.
Yeah.
So, and they like connecting with people. I mean, LinkedIn, they need sources. So that's the thing too that I find a lot of people find that they have a block around contacting journalists because they're going to they think that they're not going to be interested,
Or that they're
or
bothering them.
that they're bothering them, or that what if they're like scary, you know. I was thinking about this after Tuesday actually when they try, you know, they really, that was one of the hardest interviews I've ever done. And it was like one of those interviews where I tell my clients that that's never going to happen. They're never gonna do that. I'm like, okay, they do that. But so it's very rare that that happens. I do an interview at least once a week, and it's a very rare that they try and get you to say something that you don't want to say or that you're not prepared to say.
Yeah.
More often than not, journalists they're writing a story and they want someone to add some value to that story. They're looking for a comment. And so, for example, with Smart Company, when I make a comment for a story, it literally is 60 seconds. I've given them a quote and then that's the end of the interview.
Yeah.
Because they're on deadline. They just want an expert comment. They just need a couple of paragraphs. It's done.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing to think about with journalists too, is they're not out to get you.
Yeah.
They really want to hear what you have to say.
Yes. They have a job to do. So you're doing them a favour.
Yes, you are. You're absolutely doing them a favour. If you do all of the process that I was speaking about, that making sure that you are on topic, that you are truly sharing expert information, then you are absolutely helping them out and they will see you in a favourable light.
Yeah.
So that's the thing to think about too, and I think that's a block. Is the time is certainly a block, but it's a block around what if they misquote me?
Yeah.
It just very, very rarely happens.
Yeah, yeah. So just before we wrap up, do you have any final tips for people just starting out?
I think a thing to really think about when you're starting out is how you're going to build your personal brand.
Yeah.
It's really critical that you do this work at the start, and even if you're halfway through, or even if you've got an established business and you've never gone through the process of developing your personal brand. Like I didn't really start building my personal brand and my profile until like 10 years into my business.
Yeah.
So it's always a time to do that, and it is so critical to develop your personal brand and then use the media to be able to amplify it, because it means that you're getting out there and you're reaching as many people as you possibly can in a way that positions you as an expert and somebody that they want to do business with. So if you're just starting out, then think about who you are, what you stand for, why people would want to know you and want to buy from you. And once you've done that work, and that's I've got a free personal brand builder on my website. The people just go there. You can download it. I'm just giving it away for free.
And which website is that?
So it's unknowntoexpert.com.
Yep.
And once you've done that, it gives you an idea about what your expertise is, what you can position, how you can position yourself, and then read the news, hear what your customers are asking, know what's going on in your industry, and wrap some of those stories around to media pitches and send them to journalists. It's actually really, I'm not going to say it's easy because it's a process and you need to learn how to do it. But once you've learned how to do it, then it's something that's going to make a massive difference to your business.
Yeah. It's like everything. It's practice.
It's practice. And you know what, too? It's doing it.
Yeah, it's actually, take the leap and just do it.
Yeah. It's like so many people go, oh no, I'll do it next week. It's doing it. It's taking action, getting off the couch, getting away from whatever the barriers are of you not doing it, and then doing it.
Yeah, because it's not that scary.
No, it's not. It's great. How amazing. Like, I feel like it's such a gift for me to be able to, even when I'm on TV on Tuesday and they're, pummeling me, it's such a gift for me to be able to do that, because I have expertise. I have my opinion. I have something to say.
Yeah.
And so being able to use the media as a way of actually sharing what I've got to say and sharing my expertise is an absolute joy. So it's really thinking about how you can actually share what you've got with as many people and your expertise with as many people as what you possibly can, because that makes life so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, most important question of the interview, where can people get your book?
Oh, my book. So my book, I'll hold it up again. It's called From Unknown to Expert. And so what it is how to use clever PR and social media to become a recognized expert and influencer and to build your business. And so you can buy it from unknown to expert.com.
Yep.
And it's also an acceleration pack, which is, oh my gosh, that acceleration pack is extraordinary. There's a whole bunch of media examples of media pitches, real life examples that I've used of media releases. There's 73 templates. So there's the personal branding template, there's a media pitch template, there's there's speaking template, there's a million. And also there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of media outlets and blogger outlets.
And so people can get access to that when they buy your book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah. What a wonderful resource.
Yeah, it's great. I just re-looked at it yesterday and I was thinking, oh, if I had this when I first started.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's all there. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And for people who want to reach out and contact you, where can they find you?
So they can, through unknowntoexpert.com, there's an email address there, or you can start following me on Katrina Pollard on Facebook. And also Katrina Pollard on Twitter. And I also have a blog, katrinapollard.com, where I do a whole bunch of videos and I share my thoughts about life and creativity and entrepreneurship in general.
Wonderful. Well, Katrina, thank you so, so much for taking the time out. I know you've been a bit ill today with a cold.
Sorry.
So you've soldiered on wonderfully. So thank you so much. Go have a cup of tea and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.